sure you've spent a lot of time thinking and writing about how race and politics intersect here. And the coarsening of the discourse that is seen on display in these texts is really, well, how do you interpret the reality that these groups, these groups of people felt like this was an appropriate thing to do?
Well, it's shocking to see this in public. You have to imagine that this does happen from time to time in these private group chats. I don't want to say that this is representative of all young Republicans, not at all, but it is something that has become more common, and it's something that Donald Trump, if we have to mention the president here, the leader of the party, has made more common. He talks about...
Hang on. Let me ask you something. If you're surprised, if you're shocked, what? This country is 250 years old, and you're talking about you're shocked. Oh my God, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Oh, where have you been? Chattel slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, black codes, red light. Oh, baby, what in the world? This is why I keep asking, are any of you surprised? Is anybody surprised? I'm not surprised. Are you surprised? Are you? No. No. Don't be surprised. You live in the United States. You know better. People should know by now that the Republican Party got a lot of racism in it. Now, so does the Democratic Party. I'm not absolving them, but this whole debacle that just happened, the Republican Party got a ton of racism, a lot of it, and it shows because there was a text chat, a group chat that was leaked. And this group chat were full of young Republican Party operatives that were saying some of the most vile, bigoted things that you could say. And now they're caught. But some people are taking it one way and some people are taking it another. You want to guess where J.D. Vance is taking it? We all know. But I want to get into this because I think it's really important. Because I think it's worth noting that this particular issue, it just shows us that this country remains divided because it wants to keep people at each other's throats, and it uses things like racism, white supremacy, anti-blackness, xenophobia, queerphobia, ableism, misogyny, misogynoir. It uses all these different things in order to keep us divided as a people so that we do not actually come together to really create a brand new system that is for everybody. But I want to share this article that just recently came out of Politico. And so everybody's talking about this, so am I. So it says, Trump nominee says MLK Jr. holiday belongs in hell and that he has Nazi streak according to texts. Paul Ingracia's bid to lead a whistleblower agency is set for a Senate confirmation hearing Thursday. So this is from Paul Ingracia. He said MLK Jr. was the 1960s George Floyd, and his holiday, quote unquote, should be ended and tossed into the seventh circle of hell where it belongs. And then somebody responded with Jesus Christ. So let's take a look at this. Paul Ingracia, President Donald Trump's embattled nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, told a group of fellow Republicans in a text chain that the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday should be tossed into the seventh circle of hell. and said that he has a Nazi streak, according to the text chat viewed by Politico. Ingracia, who has a Senate confirmation hearing scheduled Thursday, made the remarks in a text chain with half a dozen Republican operatives and influencers, according to the chat. They said, so I already read about what they said about MLK Jr. being 1960s George Floyd. This is Paul Ingracia, an Italian guy. Oh my gosh, go back 100 years, he wouldn't even be considered white. Anyways, he said, using an Italian slur for black people, Ingracia wrote a month earlier in the group chat seen by Politico, no, and I'm not going to read that word because I don't know if I'm going to get hit by something on YouTube, but no blank holidays from Kwanzaa to MLK Jr. Day to Black History Month to Juneteenth. He said every single one needs to be eviscerated. Said Politico interviewed two people in the chat that granted them anonymity after they expressed concerns about personal and professional repercussions. One retained the messages and showed the text chain in its entirety to Politico, which independently verified that the number listed on the chain belongs to Ingracia. The person said he came forward because he wants the government to be staffed with experienced people who are taken seriously. The second person has since deleted the chain and didn't recall specifics about it, but they confirmed the discussions took place. So somebody, like the lawyer's like, looks like those texts could be manipulated or be provided with material context omitted. However, arguendo, even if the texts are authentic, it clearly read as self-deprecating and satirical humor, making fun of the fact that liberals outlandishly and routinely call MAGA supporters Nazis. So that's what the lawyer said. It says, in reality, Mr. Ingracia has incredible support for the Jewish community because Jews know that Mr. Ingracia is the furthest thing from a Nazi. Interesting. In a subsequent statement to Politico a few days later, Polzik called out anonymous critics trying to hurt Ingracia. The lawyer said in the stage of AI authentication and allegedly leaked messages, which could be outright falsehoods, doctored or manipulated, or lacking critical context, is extremely difficult. What is certain, though, is that there are individuals who cloak themselves in anonymity while executing their underhanded personal agendas to harm Mr. Ingracia at all costs. We do not concede the authenticity of any of those purported messages. Of course they don't. In May 2024, the group was bantering about a Trump campaign staffer who had been hired in Georgia and who was working on outreach to minority voters when Ingracia suggested that she didn't show enough deference to the founding fathers being white, according to the chat. It says Paul belongs in the Hitler Youth with the Obergruppenführer Steve Bannon. That's what they said. And then Paul Ingracia says, I do have a Nazi streak in me from time to time. I will admit it. And says one of the people in the text group said in an interview that Ingracia's comment was not taken as a joke, and 3 participants pushed back against Ingracia during the text exchange that day. So Paul Ingracia laughed at has middle name being doctored as Adolf, which is interesting for him to laugh at. The existence of the messages come as Ingracia's nomination to lead the Office of Special Counsel, an agency that investigates federal employee whistleblower complaints and discrimination claims, among other sensitive work, is already in trouble. So he's trying to be the person that oversees that investigation of federal employee whistleblower complaints. But is anybody surprised? I'm not surprised. You shouldn't be surprised. Your friend next to you shouldn't be surprised. Your girlfriend shouldn't be surprised. Your boyfriend shouldn't be surprised. Your kids shouldn't be surprised. And neither should your dog. This is America. My question is, why are we still following these political parties when we know that both parties don't give a damn about people, especially those of us who are marginalized? Why are we still stuck with them? Why are we sticking with them? Both political parties, one overtly bigoted and the other one covertly bigoted, express the same ideas. Let's continue on. It says, earlier this month, Politico reported that Ingracia, who is 30 years old, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, right? That's why I put emphasis on the 30, dirty 30, has been the subject of an internal investigation at the Department of Homeland Security, where he works as White House liaison after a sexual harassment complaint was filed against him. The woman who filed the complaint later withdrew it and said that there was no wrongdoing. Ingracia's attorney denied the allegations. In July, Republican senators delayed Ingracia's nomination hearing, with one airing concerns about some statements about anti-Semitism. Paul Ingracia allegedly said, "Never trust a Chinaman or Indian. Never," end quote. Ingracia made other racist remarks regarding, according to the chain. In January of last year, he said he wrote former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. He said, "Never trust a Chinaman or Indian." It says Ramaswamy, the son of Indian immigrants, declined to comment. Now, hang on, let me say something. Vivek Ramaswamy has no intestinal fortitude. None. No guts, no bravery to push back. And you should have known he didn't when Ann Coulter told her that she wouldn't vote for him because he was Indian to his face. No intestinal fortitude. He does not have nerves of steel. If he had nerves, that are probably the consistency of cotton candy. Don't drop it in the water, Vivek. Because how in the hell are you going to not have any comments on somebody expressing this bigotry and you don't say anything? What if that were a Democrat? Oh, he'd be all chopping the gums and everything right now. But because of partisanship, he ain't got much to say. And it's the same thing with people who are Democrats too. The hypocrisy is clear to the heavens. My gosh. Ann Coulter told him to his face because he was Indian, she would not vote for him. Oh my gosh. What a wuss. Says a month later, discussing why some Republicans feel that Democrats make black people feel that Democrats make black people into victims. The text show Ingracia remarked, he said this, quote, "Blacks behave that way because that's their natural state. You can't change them," end quote. Then he added, he said, quote, "Proof all of Africa is a shithole and will always be that way," end quote. That dude's racist. But is anybody surprised? Don't be. So One of the participants says, Paul, you're coming across as a white nationalist, which is beneficial to nobody. And Gracia said that defending our founding isn't white nationalist. He said reflexively went to saying, the participant pushed back saying, and Gracia reflexively went to saying whites built the country. And Gracia thinks that they did build the country. That comment prompted the same participant to respond, you're going to be in private practice one day. This ish will be around forever, brother. And Gracia said we should celebrate white men and white civilization, and I will never back down from that. That's what he said. Third participant in the group criticizing Gracia's white nationalist tone, and then he said he was coming across as with a tinge of racism. A tinge? That must have been a white person saying that, because there ain't no tinge. That's like somebody chopping off their arm and saying, oh, it's nothing but a flesh wound. I'm like, what? Says the second participant then said he sounded like a scumbag, which Ingracia allegedly replied, nah, it's fine. Don't be a boomer. I don't mind being a scumbag from time to time. He said, we're going to make Kwanzaa illegal in the next Trump administration. Wow. He also said that we need competent white men in positions of leadership. The founding fathers were all wrong, that all men are created equal. We need to reject that part of our heritage. End quote. So this is basically these people laughing and basically having the time of their lives while being bigoted. This is a very interesting. Is it really revealing? Yeah, it just confirms what everybody else already knows. It just confirms it. But I want to get into what people are debating and what has been said. I want to share this as well because JD Vance downplayed this. And I'm going to ask again, is anybody surprised? If you are, then that means your head has been in the sand for a long time. So let's get into this.
Especially, the reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. Like, that's what kids do. And I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives.
Hang on. Kids? What did I just read in the article? I didn't know 30 was a kid. When was the last time 30 was a kid? Remember one time, I think I said this a few times, when I spoke about this. In the Black community, we're always aged up. Our innocence is usually diminished. But at the same time, white people, particularly a lot of white women too, but white men are aged down. they're giving more credence to innocence than what they already have. So JD Vance basically calling him he's just a boy age. That dude that made those remarks is only 10 years younger than us. Me and JD Vance are the same age. That dude is literally, I was only 11 years old when that dude was born. That dude was born in what, 1995? It's 2025, bro. He's a grown ass man. And JD Vance is like that boy. If he's just a boy who did foolish things, then I guess that we have to make an excuse for the alleged shooter, Luigi Mangione. Because he was just a boy. Oh, but they don't want to. By the way, him and Luigi Mangione are both Italian. So, you know what I mean? It's crazy. This is the problem with people, especially, when it comes to partisan politics, is that they will make excuses for one and not the other. And then they will apply the same standards across the board. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, like, why don't you just on the bus? Anyway, let's go.
That's what kids do. Vice President J.D. Vance earlier today commenting again on a Politico story involving members of young Republicans organizations and thousands of leaked messages where they're seen exchanging hate, racist, and homophobic texts. The vice president choosing there not to condemn the messages, instead dismissing it as, quote, what kids do, and that, quote, kids do stupid things, especially young boys.
Boys will be boys. These boys, they do boyish things. He's a boy, Meanwhile, that boy is old enough to have a kid that's starting middle school. Weird, right? JD, what are you doing, pal?
The organization in question is for Republicans between the ages of 18 and 40. Kids. Anyway, according to Politico, the Telegram group chats involve Republican operatives and, at least one case, an elected official. Inside those messages, one referred to black people as, quote, monkeys and, quote, watermelon people. One talked about sending political opponents to gas chambers. Another called rape, quote, epic. Prominent Republicans like Congresswoman Elise Stefanik were quick to condemn the messages. The young Republicans denounced the text as vile and inexcusable. Politico reports that at least one person lost their job, while another had a job offer rescinded. At least two of the people involved have apologized. My panel is back. The Arena text chain is also with us. Tolu, I want to
I'll put it this way. All the black folks, and particularly black Americans, that decided they were going to go either one side of the duopoly or the other, and particularly I'm talking about the ones that decided to vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Please don't come and tell me, well, the Democrats do the same thing. We know that. This is why I say leave the duopoly. This is why I say walk away from both parties. Because both parties have anti-blackness. Both parties have racism. Both parties have bigotry. They both do. So why are we sticking with either or? Is there a Democrat plantation? Yes. Is there a Republican plantation? Also yes. Two things can be true at the same time. So why are you still picking their cotton in their fields? Trying to get in the house? Thinking you light-skinned enough to be one of their kids? What in the world is wrong with you? Get off both plantations, the red and the blue, because they all just want to whip us. This is not a left versus right. This is a up versus down. This is a top versus a bottom. This is rich versus poor. That's what it is. This is the exploiter versus the exploitee. This is what they think about us. This is the people who they hire. This is the people who they recruit.
Start with you on the big picture. You've spent a lot of time thinking and writing about how race and politics intersect here, and the coarsening of the discourse that is seen on display in these texts is really, well, how do you interpret the reality that these groups, these groups of people felt like this was an appropriate thing to do?
Well, it's shocking to see this in public. You have to imagine that this does happen from time to time in these private group chats. I don't want to say that this is representative of all young Republicans, not at all, but it is something that has become more common, and it's something that Donald Trump, if we have to mention the president here, the leader of the party, has made more common. He talks about...
Hang on. Let me ask you something. If you're surprised, if you're shocked, where? This country is 250 years old, and you're talking about you're shocked. Oh my God, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Oh, where have you been? Shadow slavery? Jim Crow? Mass incarceration? Black codes? Red light? Oh, baby. What in the world? This is why I keep asking, are any of you surprised? If you are, then why? And please do not come in here and be like, this is not who we are. This is who we are. This has been, look, a country founded on genocide, of course, is going to act like this. Where the hell do you think Israel gets it from? And of course, people like JD Vance going to downplay it like, oh my goodness, they were just a bunch of kids. You know, they're just talking and saying stupid stuff in the text chat. It's not going to make them regret what they said. They're just going to be more careful about not saying it because they're going to keep that stuff covert. That's all it's really going to do. They're not actually going to feel remorse after what they say because it's so inculcated in their brain to be this way. And I'm talking about the overt racism. Now you have the covert racism of the Democratic Party. And the thing is like that covert racism is more like a, oh, well, see, they don't know what to do. They're not smart enough. So we got to be there to help them. We got to save them. So that's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is they ain't shit. They ain't never gonna be shit, and they ain't never gonna have shit. That's both parties in a nutshell. So, are you surprised? I'm damn sure not.
very coarse language when he talks about his political opponent. Condemnation from someone like J.D. Vance saying that these are just kids, they're just being edgy. And there is a difference between when someone says something that's offensive, that's from a different party. Those kinds of people, in the minds of Donald Trump and his allies, they get deported, or they get shunned, or they get told that they need to lose their jobs. You have to remember what happened after Charlie Kirk was murdered. There is an opportunity for leaders to condemn both sides. If someone on your side says something that's horrendous and offensive, you can condemn it while also condemning it happening on the other side. But there is a certain sense of hypocrisy that if something happens among my political allies, they're just kids and they need to be forgiven and given a lot of grace. If someone on the opposite side of the aisle says something that's offensive, they need to get the hammer put down on them.
So he does make a good point there. I will say this. Because how many people were up in arms over somebody saying some unsavory things about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? How many people were saying something? How many people of these same people were calling for the firing and the arrest and deportations of people who said what they said about Charlie Kirk? And yet, are we doing the same thing for these young human beings that decided to let their freak flag of bigotry fly? No, not really. Or the vice president will make excuses for them and say, well, they're just boys and boys do stupid things. I agree. Boys do super stupid things. They do. At the same time, when you go down this road, that means it's something that's been inculcated in your mind, and that's something inside your heart. And in positions of power, that leads to institutional and systemic institutional power and systemic oppression, suppression, ostracizing continuously. So those of us who are marginalized, because as the good book says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And they said it within the privacy of their own cohorts, thinking that nobody else will see it. Like my mama always says, what is dirty will come out in the wash. And guess what? It's out now. So, this guy is going to have a position in government, or he's going to be going to a confirmation hearing, a Senate confirmation hearing, to be part of the U.S. government. And he has these ideas. And some people, especially a lot of liberals, are saying, oh my God, he's going to be in that position of government. Meanwhile, I mean, a lot of y'all confirmed a lot of Trump's appointments already. Overwhelmingly so. Y'all didn't put up a fight for that. And then on top of that, y'all still honor the founding fathers, who were even worse racists than that guy. They were even, child traffickers. Hello, Thomas Jefferson. And so that's part of the cognitive dissonance as well that a lot of people want to talk about. The founding fathers were immoral and criminal men. I said what I said. Go cry to your big bone mama about it. I don't care. The founding fathers were degenerates and perverts. Oh, you're going to cry because I said something about the founding fathers. So what? It's the truth. They led genocidal campaigns against the Native Americans. They're no different than the supremacists that try to claim land over there in occupied Palestine. They're no different. Are we really surprised? Are we really going to act surprised for this one?
I'm going to play for you, Tolu, something else that J.D. Vance said here today. We'll watch it because I think it plays into the point Tolu was just making. Take a look.
We're not canceling kids because they do something stupid in a group chat. And if I have to be the person who carries that message forward, I'm fine with it. And by the way, if they were left-wing kids telling stupid left-wing jokes, I would also not want their lives to be ruined because they're saying something stupid in a private group chat.
But wait, JD. All right. What if they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free while on a college campus while expressing their First Amendment rights? Are you going to say that they shouldn't be canceled for expressing their First Amendment rights while on a college campus? Especially if it's a public college campus. Are you going to say that? The hypocrisy of it all. The hypocrisy. See, this is the thing. This system, it pits groups against one another so that it can keep the same systems in place so that we end up going after each other by the throat. And one of the tools that it uses is different forms of bigotry, because it wants you to look at your fellow citizen, neighbor, even if that person may be undocumented. It wants you to look down on them and say, well, you're not good enough because you have this different trait or different status. So therefore, we're going to treat you like crap. And so then we end up doing that. And it ended up keeping the working class divided. Hell, they're even doing psyops to make sure the Black community is divided. What do they do to Black immigrants? They tell Black immigrants that Black Americans ain't shit. We've lived on this country for 400 years and we still haven't made much of ourselves. And so then they treat us like that. And then we're given a psyop of telling us that, oh man, look at these Black immigrants coming over here. They don't like us. And then they came from Africa, and Africa hasn't been able to build itself up. So they ain't shit. And so then we look at them in some kind of way, and they look at us in some kind of way, and then we're at each other's throats. And then we say, well, they didn't want to unite with us, so we don't want to unite with them. And it keeps the Black community divided. We could even go just in the freedmen community, how black female freedmen versus Black male freedmen are even divided among ourselves too. Let's not get into the LGBTQ freedmen versus the straight freedmen. Oh, that's a whole another divide there too. And then on top of that, you got people who are versus other immigrants. Then you got the people who are middle class versus working class. Then you have the neurodivergent versus the neurotypical. Then you have the white women versus the the white women versus the white men. And it divides and divides and divides and divides and divides until the point where you're just alone. Because you've been told who your enemy was by the parasite class. And they will use bigotry in order to keep us divided, because then you start to believe the scapegoating that they pushed on us. And then you start saying things like some of these young men do in your mind and in your heart. And then next thing you know, you start to believe it. And then once you start to believe it, guess what happens? You don't want to unite with them in order to fight for a better world. And then do we get a better world? Do we get a better country? Do we get to change the foundations of it so that it's actually more equal, equitable, and have dignity for all? No. And then everything stays the same, or it continuously gets progressively worse. And that's part of the problem. So when we talk about doing mutual aid and building dual power and do all these things, means that you have to put the bigotry that we may have aside. And everybody has it. We all do. We all have bigotry in some way, shape, or form. Some of us have it a little bit more than others, and some of us still have some decolonizing to do in our minds. I know I still do. Problem is that are we going to allow that colonization within our minds and hearts to continue so that we end up still staying divided? We got to work through it. We got to look inward.
First of all, having a role where you're representing the public, losing that role, it's not having your life ruined. It's having accountability for saying something when you're representing people. That's the same thing that people called for when people were, saying negative things about Charlie Kirk, who were representative of the public in their own private Facebook chats or Facebook messages. That was what Republicans were calling for back then. So it's called accountability. It's not called ruining people's lives. But it is important to note that some of these vile, racist, and homophobic languages that we see in these chats, they do cause harm for a lot of people. They do stem from a place, and for people who have power, who want to exert political power to espouse these views, that often filters into policy making. It's not just being edgy in a group chat. This is how people are seeing and dehumanizing people, and it does lead to policy differences that actually impact people's lives. So it's important to know that it's not just kids in a group chat being edgy. These are potential future leaders who have important roles.
It could be the Attorney General now.
Oh, now I will say this: while he's correct in that, I didn't see the same rhetoric happening during the Democratic National Convention last year, when a bunch of people who were Democrats were being pleaded with by Palestinian protesters, and they were talking about the ages of all the people who were being massacred and murdered in Palestine, how Democrats were actually mocking the protesters about the ages of the little children that were being massacred by Israel on the ground. Have they also been held accountable for mocking the deaths of children? Remember what I said? It's both parties. Are you listening? One is overt, one is covert. I'm telling you right now, y'all. One has overt bigotry, the other one has covert bigotry. One is racist in front of you, and the other one is racist behind you. Message. And so that's why it is so important for people to realize that this system is not doing us any good, and we have to put bigotry behind us. So I think that is the long and short of it, right? We have so many people that will make excuses from one party or the other, when in reality, we need to stop with trying to make excuses and just push for something better for everybody. So let's go into this as well. A lot of people are having debates, but my thing is, it's like, look, if you're going to have debates about this, you better be ready to call it your own party too. Because if you're not ready to call it your own party, then you're just yelling into the wind. You're just a clashing cymbal. Let's listen to this.
To vociferously has a history of racism himself.
No, that's
These
not
people,
true.
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
sorry,
Donald Trump
that's not
started his
true.
career with racism. In the 1970s, he was sued for housing discrimination. In 1989, he was a part of he was led the lynch mob against the Central Park Five. In the 1990s, he was sued by casino workers for racial discrimination. He led a 5.5-year campaign against Barack Obama for allegedly not having an accurate birth certificate. Donald Trump came in office talking about he was going to ban Muslims, and he was called Mexicans were supposedly
He has
bringing
the
drugs.
most multiracial
Donald Trump has a long history. You didn't deny anything of the things I just said. Donald Trump just this year said that he's allowing white South Africans to come to the United States, but not black South Africans. What could be more racist than that?
Why did the majority of Latino men?
Okay. While, yes, the gentleman is right. We've known Donald Trump has been racist the entire time. And don't come to me with, oh, he's taking pictures with black men. Slaveholders sexually assaulted black female slaves. That doesn't mean they like them. Anyways, so while that is true, at the same time, that does not absolve Democrats of theirs as well. Do you want to talk about Joe Biden? Do you want to talk about Kamala Harris? And yes, black people, well, some people debate whether Kamala Harris is black or not. But anyways, black people within the Democratic Party can also exhibit anti-blackness and white supremacist ideology as well. So let's not miss that point. But yes, Donald Trump has had very strong racist proclivities for a long time. So therefore, we cannot sit here and, like this lady is trying to do, oh my goodness, he has the most multiracial call. No. Don't you dare do the identity politics on the Republican side now. Especially since y'all were so against it back in a couple of years ago. No, ma'am, have a seat, please, for your sake, so you don't get egg on your face. She gets egg on her face, she'll probably look like Peter Thiel. Sweaty ass billionaire. Anyways, but that's the point, right? So let's continue. It's so funny. This is hilarious.
Majority of Latino men vote for him. Why did 25% of black men vote for him?
It was not 25%. And still, black people are the most loyal group against Donald Trump, in fact, because we clearly could see through the charade that he was putting up. Donald Trump has a 50-year history of racism. Why did the majority of Hispanic men vote for him if he's I'm not a Hispanic person. I can tell you as a black man that Donald Trump is a racist. That's unquestionable.
I don't agree with that.
All right, let me just, there's a statement.
It's not about whether you hold on, wait. This is the part that really gets me. It's like, I don't agree that he's racist. I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. You are a white woman, and you're telling a black man whether you think somebody is racist or not, and he's actually given you multiple examples, and the only thing you can point to is, well, a lot of Latino men actually voted for him. There's also a lot of anti-blackness within the Latino community. Hello? No. You ain't doing that right here. No. Granted, he's tapped into for the Democratic Party, which I got some words for him too. But ma'am, you need to sit down and just listen and humble yourself. I say this to anybody that's white. Let me tell you right now, when black people see the microaggressions and racism and they actually call it out, you might need to take a listen. Now, is it always, it should be taken with a grain of salt, because especially black liberals, sometimes they'll use that as a way to silence people who are actually right on the issues when it comes to certain things. Or sometimes somebody who's white will say the right thing, but they'll say it in a way that's kind of out of pocket. And it's like, you probably shouldn't have said it that way. Or you probably should have just, like step aside and let us say it. Anyways, this lady saying what she's saying, it's like, well, I don't agree. It's not up for you to agree or not. It is objectively true. I don't give a damn whether you agree or not. It is objectively true. Yes, he's racist. Every single U.S. president, every single U.S. president is a white supremacist. I did not stutter. I did not misspeak. I'm saying it full chest, 10 toes down. If I had 11, then I would have put 11 down. Because none of them have ever given a damn about black people. None of them. Even Lincoln. What did Lincoln say? If I can keep the Union together while not having to free the blacks, then I definitely would. He said that. I'm talking about, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that. They all push white supremacy in some way, shape, or form. They all push anti-blackness in some way, shape, or form, including some Dem socks. Their guy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Yeah. None of them were really a friend to black people. We may have thought it at the time because, we fell for the okie doke. I'm pretty sure that some of my, great-grandmother and grandmother and them probably fell for the okie doke with the JFK. But we know now, they still weren't completely down with us. So to think that, oh my God, Donald Trump's not racist, stop. Now, to Mr. Boykin. Well, yes, you're correct about Donald Trump. You got to clean up your own house too, because the call is coming from inside the house. Have you heard of Joe Biden? Him and Donald Trump are cut from the same cloth. And please don't give me the Kamala Harris as a black woman so she wouldn't be against. Look, black faces in high places were not going to save us. And guess what? They have been traitors to us ever since chattel slavery too. So let's get that clear. Talk to the black people in California about Kamala Harris. Oh, they'll let you know. So neither party gives a damn about us. And when it comes to bigotry, it is within both parties. I hope I made that abundantly clear. And let's not go, well, one's slightly better than the other. We're not going to do slightly better than the other. We're done with that. We're done with it. We're not doing it no more. It's over. It's over. It's over now. Move over. It's my turn now. It's over. The game's shut down. Sorry. Nah, we ain't doing that no more. All right. And so JD Vance, he can make as many excuses as he wants. I mean, he'll probably make excuses for how much he likes sofas and couches too, but hey, it is what it is. But look, we're not going to continue on down this road of being, the Democrats are less racist and the Republicans are more racist and blah, blah, blah. One's just covert and one's just overt. One does it in front of your face and one does it behind your back. Because let me tell you something, baby. Let me show you. This is also racist. Democrats kneeling in kente cloth instead of actually doing substantive, concrete, tangible change for Black Americans. They ain't doing nothing either. It's all performative. So I rest my case. But look, y'all got to realize, don't be surprised at what these either parties do. But when it comes to what happened in that text group chat, that's just par for the course within the United States government. This is why the system needs to be changed fundamentally. Because as long as we have the anti-blackness and the homophobia and the misogyny and the misogynoir, as long as we continue to have the queerphobia and the real anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism does exist, it's just the anti-Semitism that the Zionists are talking about is not actually as prevalent as they say it is. And plus, Zionists are also anti-Semitic against Palestinians because Palestinians and Arabs are actually Semites. Anyways, I don't want to digress too much, but let's be real. Like, the bigotry is strong in both areas, but it is noticeably strong within the GOP. So don't be surprised. I don't need you to be surprised. I just need you to be careful. Leave both parties. Let's get together. Let's do mutual aid. Let's build dual power. Let's change the system fundamentally so we all can have dignity in the correct way that is concrete and real. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. 1. Forehead kisses.